up? Welcome back to another edition of Dragonstorm's Ancient Myths, Legends, and Lore. Look, I didn't even screw that up. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Welcome back to our third edition or episode, whichever you want to call it. We haven't decided. And so on this particular episode, we are going to pivot a little bit. And like I was saying, we could go into ancient Egypt for a long time. We could. There's so many myths and legends, and there's so much, archaeology we could, uncover. But Anthony just recently put me up on a very fascinating, more contemporary, archaeological find in India. And I was saying, and like, I didn't know any of this. I think I had heard of this, but this is super fascinating. It's really like mind-boggling treasure trove of history and treasure in India, and there's a whole bunch of lore and stories and legend behind it too. So I said, let's get into that. Let's talk about that. And I know the name of it is it's Indian. So I'm saying it's like I've been thinking it Vivek Ramaswamy, but it's something like, what is it, Anthony? How do you pronounce it?
I shorten it to Padmanabhaswamy Temple, but I think it's Padmanabhaswamy. Padmanabhaswamy. Padman Temple. I say Padman Temple.
Yeah. So sorry. I hope my mic is. I had my mic going the wrong way, so hopefully you can hear.
Sounds great. Yep.
But so tell me a little bit about how you discovered this particular thing, and why doesn't the rest of the world know about this?
Yeah. Well, that's really an interesting question. So I think I stumbled across it on Instagram. It was a real, one of those, they're among us or whatever, those kind of stories. But within the story itself, that was a lot of hoo-ha. There was about this temple in India, which not only had a tremendous amount of treasure, but also had some curse, which, I want to get to a little more. So it drew my attention. I had just started writing the second book at the time, and I needed I work off of this stuff. So I checked it out quick. And sure enough, the stuff that was in the Instagram reel was real. And it was mind blowing. And anyone I tell this story to is usually very surprised by it. They've never heard of it before, and it's a bit shocking when you hear from not only the wealth of the temple, the age of the temple, which is really unknown, but look at the possible timeline. And then this curse that is associated with the temple is a tremendously apocalyptic curse, which apparently has got some real historical and factual grounding in this curse.
And it's got people scared in India. It's got the Indians scared as hell of this curse.
Yeah, I mean, so much so that the chamber that is the point of issue, it's in the courts of India. Like, they want this temple. So I think let's start at the beginning. So this temple in India, first of all, which we're going to put up pictures of it, of course, but it is lined. The outside of it is lined with gold. It is actually gold plated, real gold, and it's about 13 or 14 stories high. It has a traditional architecture of one of the temples that in that area, and it is a tremendous area for worship. So it draws people from all over, not only for the gold and the riches, but it's a central point for worship. So this temple not only has all the regular aspects of another temple, it also has a subterranean level, which has 6 vaults in it. The vaults have been being stored with gold and treasure for possibly, that's when we talk about the date, 5,000 years. So it could be as far back as 5,000 years ago. So I have to imagine that the vaults go far underground. No one has really seen too many pictures. There's very, very few photos of the interior of the temple itself.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they're so secretive about it?
I think that as far as the temple and the worship area, I think that that's probably pretty common in India, that they don't want photographs taken inside the holy area. And more so because of what's below. They don't want anyone taking pictures of security or anything that they have there, because the entire temple is surrounded by armed security. Sure. And the reason that it is because they recently got a court decision that the India court ruled that the family who is in charge of overseeing and caretaking the temple right now had to open all of these vaults and do an inventory. And the claim was that they wanted to make sure that nothing was being stolen. So they wanted to create an inventory that they could compare to 5, 10, 15 years down the road and make sure that the people who were in charge are not using it for their own benefit. It's supposed to be for the temple. When they finished doing the inventory, at some point they stopped. So it's filled with gold going back 5,000 years, idols of Indian gods and all other kinds of gods because people paid tribute to this temple. It was well known, I guess, over thousands of years. But the estimates came in when they stopped at approximately $9 trillion. Wow. $9 trillion of wealth.
Dude,
Okay.
can you imagine how much money that is?
I,
9 trillion. That's 9,000 billion.
Yeah, I think somebody just like threw a wet noodle against the wall and came up with the number. I think they had to stop. I think there's so much treasure down there, and because it is of an archaeological of really, it's priceless. Really, honestly, it would be like trying to place a price tag on the Ark of the Covenant or something like that. There's no price that can be put on it. So I think the accountants and the investigators and all those people, I think they kind of just said, let's just stop at 9 trillion. And that was from 5 of the 6 vaults. Now, the really interesting vault here is called Vault B. Vault B was a 3-lined vault up until I think it was about 1920 or 1930, somewhere in that timeline. They wanted to do this again. They wanted to see what was going on with this vault and what was behind it. Because one estimate recently said that there could be as much as $1 trillion in just this one vault, or worth of unsurmountable treasure. So it was a wood, steel, wrought iron gate, and then a steel door. So that's
it's also
what
got a curse, according, isn't there? There's that attached to it too. You'll get to that, but
I'm working through it because in the 20s and 30s is really when you get a modern take on this curse. Okay,
right.
Vault B is off limits. It's got a demon head over it and 2 naga, which are serpents in India. And it has 2 of these serpents on the side and the demon over it, and it's an off-limits type of chamber. So basically, everyone who's ever been in there knows that this is an off-limits chamber. So this Vault B is, like I said, it has 2 serpents or naga on the side of it, and the demon head, a very disturbing-looking demon head over the top. And it's off-limits. So in the 20s or 30s, they decide they're going to do an opening of this. So they remove the wood exterior door, and they get to the area where they actually have to pry the door up to get into the chamber. Story goes that, and there were a lot of witnesses apparently, there was 10 or 12 people down there doing this with them. As they started to jack the door or pry the door up, it got up about an inch and a half, and they were inundated with cobras. Cobras just came flooding out of there, hundreds and hundreds of cobras attacking everyone. This gets even better. It gets even better. So they dropped this door. They people were bit, and I believe people did die. So they dropped this door back down. They sealed the chamber back up. And now from that point forward, because now they've gotten to the 3rd layer of entry into this chamber, if you put your ear to the door, you hear massive ocean crashing waves and running water. Always, constantly. It's not like something they hear once in a while. So if you put your ear against the door, you hear like the Atlantic Ocean crashing against the rocks right beyond the door. It is so insane. It's almost beyond belief. But this is a very, very, at least in the Indian culture, a very well-known curse. And the curse itself is you don't open Vault B. No one knows what's behind those doors. But if you open the doors, you will begin the apocalypse. You will begin the end of the end. So that's why there is actually so think about this. If it was in America, there is a legal battle where the proponents of keeping it sealed are saying to the court, you can't force us to open this vault. You're going to cause the end of the world. Could you imagine trying to make a legal argument like that in the United States? It just shows you a different level of faith and belief system too, which I think is very interesting. Yeah. But it's a viable argument in the Indian courts, and they're saying, based upon what has happened recently, they're not going to force this door open. In the most recent inventory, the story goes that the investigators tried to open the door, but very quickly realized they had no way of doing it. And the reason that they say that is because they are saying that it has a cosmic lock, and that the door is sealed with a cosmic lock, and that in order to open the door, you have to know this cosmic chant, which is on all different levels and decibels of sound that can be emanated from the human voice. And they say that there's no one alive today that knows how to perform the mantra or the chant for the cosmic lock. So there is no real way of opening the door.
Yeah.
So they
Unless they
stopped. They
use
gave
a
up.
jackhammer or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it gave them a good reason to not go any further and trying to open this door because, as I said, the beliefs are rich over there, and I'm sure that the investigators were afraid to go in here.
It's super fascinating that in different cultures, societies, completely these are, it's not a third world, but
No.
how faith and religion plays such a it's such a prominent role in their society that it could even dictate something like this. Or here, nobody would care. They're like, oh, if you're a Christian, you said, well, it had, there's a Christian in the bottom of this cathedral in New York or something. There's a vault, and our Christian beliefs say if you open it at the end of the world, they'd slap you out of the way and say, look out, we're going in there to get this. But in India, they take this stuff very, very seriously, and this is a very well known curse in their society, and God forbid, literally, what if it was a gateway to the underworld or something? Because if they lifted it up, and that's a true story about the cobras. Well, if that is true, which I'm not saying it isn't, it has to be supernatural because cobras don't live in mass inside of tombs. They can't. They need food, they need water, they need to survive. So those would be supernatural cobras. So whatever the case is, and there's a lot going on there too. If they can't figure out how to open it, and if their belief is this cosmic chant, but but you gotta have, I'm sure, the other side of the coin with these people in India. There's a lot of very wealthy and greedy businessmen and politicians in there who want to sink their fangs into what's in that vault. $9 trillion. I mean, just, are there pictures? And I hope there are maybe some pictures that we can splice in there. But there's any pictures of the treasures and the artifacts and things that they found in there? I mean, is it just like, it's like family, I mean, American Treasure or whatever that movie
Yeah,
is, but
National Treasure, right? I think it's more than that. I
I'm
think it would
sure.
have to be more than that. I've only seen one photo I was able to find, which was of the god Vishnu, I believe is the way that you say his name. And it was a tremendous him lounging in a certain position, which is significant to the religion.
Yeah,
And that's the only piece of treasure that I have seen a photograph of. Everything, like I said, has been very, very hush hush and limited. Um, but I can say two things. Number one, if you were just trying to hide what you had in there or the quantity and the amount of wealth within this temple, you wouldn't open, almost all the doors except for one, right? I mean, you just wouldn't.
yeah,
You would open none. You would say they were all cursed. So I don't think the argument that they don't want to reveal how much treasure they have or what the value is because they're fearful someone will come to try to take it. I don't think that's a viable argument. So the next question is, why would they continue a legend like this, which doesn't really prohibit worship? It doesn't prohibit someone coming and stealing from the other vaults. It doesn't do any of those things. It makes no mention of, you'll get the wrath of Vault B if you go and steal from Vault 1 or 2. So I don't see any reason in developing this myth because a lot of myths and legends, especially of this kind of nature, were formulated to control man. I mean, they
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
were almost like early laws. They didn't understand certain things, but they understood heaven and hell. So you do this, you go into hell. So
Yeah.
those things kept people in check. So if we look at it from that standpoint, there's really no reason because every other part of this temple is susceptible to outside forces. So it doesn't have anything to do with control, I don't think. So the next question I have to ask is, what would be the purpose? They're not trying to promote more tourism to this temple at all. So there's no
Yeah.
reason to do that. and they are so tight-lipped about it that it's not even like they're putting out enough information to really let the world know what's going on. So I'm really fascinated by it, and I have to say, Gunnar, that in all my years, I'm 53 years old. In all my years of researching, supernatural claims like this, I have never ever found one more believable than this. I believe that this is possibly one of the first true, pieces of evidence of that real supernatural side, because I can't come up with any other logical explanation for it, for the tale
Well,
itself.
I got a lot to say. One of the things I must interject at this point is the fact that you used it in your book, Dragonstorm, to as part of the story of your book to move the story along. And I love that you use these real instances and real legends and lores and work them in and probably bring them a lot more to life than maybe even they are, which makes it even cooler. But there's a couple like things that come to mind. I guess for the people who don't know me, you're first watching this show, I'm a former criminal. I spent 13 years in prison. I was a gangster, right? So my mind, for whatever reason, because the way I grew up, I guess, and the people I was around, I always approaches things from the mind of a criminal, like a criminal element. So now imagine first of all, I don't know who the people are who control this. I'm assuming it's some kind of Hindu temple, but the Hindu priests or the Buddha or the monks or whatever are probably in control of this. But when you're talking trillions of dollars, there's two things here. One, you could leverage the value of it for loans, equities, and things like that. You could use to invest in properties and build things around the world, businesses in India, whatever. You could basically tell banks, listen, I will put up a portion of what we have as treasure for a $500 million loan because we're going to start this, government entity, this business or whatever. Or the other thing is, what if some very smart Indian businessmen got together and said, listen, if we inflate the value of this and just say it's worth $9 trillion, we can leverage it to buy, to literally, to get loans for any amount of money. As long as we control this treasure that's worth $9 trillion, I mean, we have more money than the national, the national, GDP 10 times or whatever it is they make in India. It's a lot. I'm sure it's a couple $1 trillion, but whatever the case is, I feel like there's probably some greedy, likely evil business guys type minds, politicians behind this saying, how can we utilize this to benefit us, manipulate it to make us money? But you're saying, you said the family that controls it. So who controls this temple though?
Yeah, let me see if I could find it's the Travancore royal family. Okay. They are in
So
charge,
there's some kind of
caretakers. They're only caretakers. And that's
who
why
owns
I think your argument is a great argument, except for the fact that the treasure is not up for that type of collateral. It belongs to the temple as a holy place.
So we know that we know of.
Right. So we're told, of course. You know what? I'm basing this on what's the base information that we can receive, and how does that play out in terms of, you know, what
Well,
ifs. I mean, really, that's what we're looking at.
how
What
many
ifs.
times has
So
America got loans from China and other companies based on bonds and futures, or basically saying, well, we got freaking $9 trillion in Fort Knox worth of gold, and then used it to leverage loans and oil and other things. Like we got there's no gold in Fort Knox, or if there is, it's not what they say. It's the reason why our dollar. I think there's only 3% of the American dollar is backed by gold and precious metals.
hey, you mean it's
3%.
not like that Bugs Bunny episode with all the gold
No,
in
exactly. Yeah.
it?
Where he goes in and gets it. Yeah, no. So that's what I'm saying is Indian people tend to be very smart. I will say that, and you get there's a lot of billionaires in India, and you have that type of money laying around. I just feel like some very enterprising business guys would get together and figure out, because that's what happened in America for sure. We
Sure.
figure out how can we leverage this to make ourselves rich. We have $9 trillion worth of equity here. So what can we do? Can we use it as equity to leverage a loan? Can we say it's worth there and it's really not there? Maybe there's only $1 trillion, but we're going to say it's worth 9 trillion. I don't know, but it's fast. So it's a Hindu temple, yes?
Yes.
So that's obviously a really remarkable. What made it so remarkable? Like why is that temple and that place loaded with treasure. Why is it there?
It seems like it started out. So I mean, I was trying to trace the ideas that they were using, and familiarize myself, because I had done a lot more reading about it when I was working on that part of the book. And actually, I made it actually it's becoming the second half of my second book, which is going to come out in a few months. It is a central part of that book. It actually intrigued me so much that I was able to think about it. You have an unknown door that's going to open up to whatever I want to make it
Yeah.
open up to. And I had unlimited opportunities to work with it. So it was great. Um, so basically, what they said is that over the course of at least 2,500 years, um, and before, so about 5,000 years is really when they think it came to fruition. You had all countries from Mesopotamia, Jerusalem, Greece, Rome, and all of the places around the world who gave tribute. So that fits with some of the written reports from the inventory, that they would have, barrels of Greek, or Roman gold, or things that were of a Christian or Islamic or Judaism religion, that were given to the temple as tribute. I don't know, and it's actually a key part in my second half of my story, in real life, why it was so important for these civilizations and these tribes who were really not in uh,
Not
direct
Hindu.
communication with India per
Yeah.
se, why they were delivering
Precious metals
tribute,
and treasures.
really.
Yeah.
It's gems, diamonds, gold. It's all kinds of different artifacts and things
Art. Yeah. It doesn't
that
make any
were
sense
that were
because
expensive back then, even that they were
right.
giving.
No,
Yeah,
exactly. That's why I'm saying it doesn't make any sense because Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome, uh, all those countries they weren't Hindu. So why
right.
would they be donating precious metals and gold, their own very valuable resources, to a Hindu temple thousands of miles away? It doesn't, and they're not like I know this happens a lot in those type of cultures with the various gods. You may have your god, but you don't want to piss off somebody else's god. So it's
Right.
you want to give them a little tribute too once in a while. And if you have Indian guys saying, "Hey, listen, our god is going to be very angry if you come through our territory and trade with our traders, and you're not given a piece of the action like a mob boss. It's like a mob shakedown.
Right.
Give us
Exactly.
a piece of the action." Or my God's going to be very mad. You're going to have problems and robbers and pillagers, highwaymen, whatever. But they built one hell of a freaking operation there. Like they convinced half the known world that if you don't give us a tribute, you're all gonna die.
Well, I found one little snippet in a very old newspaper article, and I couldn't substantiate where it was from. And the gist of it was this: Alexander the Great marched all the way from Athens, from Greece, across everywhere, across the continent.
Macedonia, right?
Right. And where did he stop? He was stopped at India.
Asia.
Okay. So he wasn't able to go further into India, and then he died right after that. The
Yeah.
claim in this newspaper article, and I haven't been able to find it again. It was right at the beginning of when I started doing research, and I didn't print it out off the web. I've been looking for it forever. Just like I'll tell you another one after that. But it said that whatever is in Vault B was used to stop the Greek army from advancing into India, and that those other cultures, their rulers, were aware of what had occurred, and that was a big part of why tribute was being paid. And I've never been able to find any other information regarding this at all. I mean, it's a logical. It seems like a logical type of of story, but I could have created it in what I'm writing, so I don't know whether it's true or not. And I'm going to keep looking for it until I find it again. It's funny because in my first book, and maybe one day we'll talk about it, there was a claim in, I think it was the 1890s or 1880s, by National Geographic explorers, that they found a cavern in the Grand Canyon completely filled with Egyptian antiquities. And then, have you heard that? I mean, that's a little bit more commonly known. And it took me, it took me 2 or 3 months to find that newspaper article again. But I did find that one. I can't find this one, unfortunately. But
One
I'm
of
going
the
to
things
keep looking.
that's fascinating me about this thing is like this is a very advanced culture. Going back 5,000 years, I know they're very advanced in terms of writing and their gods and their worship and faith and things like that, just like the Egyptians. But you're talking about, I mean, compared to, even compared to the Egyptians, this trumps them, man. This is way bigger in terms of sheer wealth and riches. This is way bigger than anything in Egypt. Not talking about the pyramids, but the general. If you were to take all the wealth from the pyramids, all together combined, I don't think they would match what is in India in that place.
I have to believe that it's probably one of the most wealthiest locations in the world. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't think of, um, in terms of, so forget about, like we said, forget about the actual weight in gold monetary value of the materials and of the artifacts in there. It's completely priceless. The things that they say are in there, and there's all kinds, like I mentioned the Ark of the Covenant, because Ark of the Covenant is one of the things they say is in Vault B. I mean, they say there's so much treasure in here. And another idea that I had liked, which I may or may not be using in the second part of the book, was, what if this was actually like a bank, right? What if this was actually like, listen, we've got this Vault B, and then we've got these other vaults. We will secure your most precious artifacts and treasures and things like that. If you're ever, invaded, or you ever think that you're about to be invaded,
yeah,
we promise to secure your treasure and gold and give it back to you at the end for whatever price. So, I mean, that's also an interesting idea.
yeah.
And maybe they just didn't return the stuff, or maybe the civilization who left it there, like let's say the in Israel, maybe when the Romans defeated them, and then Muslim occupation, all those things. So maybe they never had the chance to reclaim what
Right.
they left with the
Yeah, it's still theirs. Well, wonder why there's no record though. You think maybe there is and they don't share it. Maybe they don't want people to know. I'm not sure, but you would think such an advanced civilization uh, would have some kind of written record. And I know paper wasn't a thing back then, but they did have stone tablets, and they also had precious metals. The artisans, well, in almost all these amazing things that I'm sure they created that are in this temple, they etch designs, they etch words and the pictography, and they, so like you would think there would be some kind of something that would indicate why this thing was there, and it would have been handed down through the temple, through the, the monks or whoever, the Hindu priests, whatever, and they would know. But it's almost like, how do you have this massive work? It's like Egypt. If the Egyptian temples were still, I mean, Egyptian pyramids were still like active with, their like people there living there. Well, this temple is a real temple that's being used right now.
right.
Like
It's
people
still
go there to
active.
worship, and why don't they know the history of this? It's kind of bizarre.
I mean, it's funny that you said that. I never really thought about that. I mean, it's got to be one of the oldest places to worship in the world too, that is still active. If we
Yeah,
think about it from that standpoint too, if
five
they've been
thousand years,
worship
a long
for
fucking
5,000
time.
years, yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, you know.
It's hard to believe that even at 5,000 years ago, the society was that advanced. And then, like, you look at Egypt, and it was definitely advanced. But I could see building the pyramids was an incredible feat, whether it was alien help or not, whatever, and incredible. But in India, I mean, to build a temple like this, cover it in gold, and then fill it with riches and gold and wealth from all over the world, one of the most remarkable stories, I think, unknown stories. People don't know this, but just incredible. And I hope we have some kind of pictures. And even if we don't have the exact pictures of that treasure, I know you'll pipe in some pictures of
I have
treasure.
I have some really good stuff I'm going to put up. I have some. I
Okay.
even have a couple of cell phone video clips that I found of the worships
Hmm.
level of the temple, which I'll be able to plug into. So you're going to get a good idea of what's going on there. As far as the architecture, it really is such a different type of construction than what they did anywhere in Egypt. It's more like a building type of a structure, or
Yeah.
you would see in Asia, and throughout Asia, their temples and their
Yeah.
designs. And it is. I have a great picture which I'm going to put up, and
They're
um,
very advanced. Like,
completely covered in gold, every inch of it. I mean, it's glowing in the sun. You can see it.
I didn't even know that back 5,000 years ago they were so advanced as to build stuff like that. I mean, the pyramids are very obviously very advanced and hard to build, but it's kind of a simple geometric thing. Where this temple in India is very complex. It looks like they could have built it yesterday. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Very
but
modern.
covered it gold.
Yeah, it's very modern.
And I don't know how they did that 5,000 years ago. Again, this can harken to lots of things from God, supernatural, aliens, whatever. I don't know, but all we do know is there's a really big temple made of gold in
Mm-hmm.
India that has 9 trillion estimated dollars worth of booty in it, and then there's one chamber that's locked shut, and the people in the temple say we can't open this one because if it does, it unlocks the gates of hell and the end of the world. So they're like, maybe we will leave that one. But then there's other people going, there's $1 trillion in there, man. Like you said, there could be if you had one like sculpture made of gold or something like that, and on the market, that would be worth like $100 million. Even if the
Sure.
gold itself is only worth $150,000 worth of gold or a couple hundred grand, it'd be worth $100 million. The provenance of it, the value of it as an artifact to a collector, to some billionaire who go, I'll give you $100 million for that right now. Ching. So I think there's a lot at play there that we probably will never know, because I think India's government is probably every bit as corrupt as ours. There's a lot of very corrupt business people and people trying to get some of that money, if they're able to infiltrate the Hindu monks or whatever, and to kind of manipulate them, infiltrate that temple, get in there, get their hands on it. We'll never know, but I certainly would love to see some more pictures of some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And it's such a well guarded place that I don't think they even worry about the possibility of it being robbed at this point.
right,
So
no, probably got
um,
army. It's probably got army.
yeah, I mean it's really fortified well.
Well,
But
it's kind of like the Indian Fort Knox of treasure, treasure and antiquities. I mean, somebody's sitting there going, "Hey, we got 9 trillion bucks in here." I mean, that's more than our GDP. Like, I don't know, our GDP is like 3 trillion or something. Like, think
right.
about how big that is. It's
Oh,
astronomical.
it's tremendous. It's tremendous. It's almost unfathomable. I mean, I think when
Yeah,
you and I first talked about this, I said to you, it's almost we talk about it and we say
yeah. I
numbers.
can't wrap your
It's
mind
it's
around
not
it.
fathomable.
No,
It's just
it's too
it's
big.
just too much. But yeah, it's apparently it's there. So, and
That's
it's
pretty cool, though. I think it's
nominated
fascinating.
my second part of the book. So there'll be, if you're interested in it, there'll be a real lot of real historical stuff in
Yeah.
the second part of Abracadabra, and I'm gonna put my own spin on what I think is going on there. So, which is pretty
Well,
fun.
that's cool, man. I hope things blow up for us so one day we can go there and like poke around in there and like walk in there and eat a steak. I'm just kidding. The
I'm
Indians,
ready. Come on, I'm ready. Yeah.
they don't they worship cows, so you don't want to walk in there eating steak.
No,
I'm just
I'll
saying,
throw on my Indiana Jones hat though, and we'll go in
we'll
there.
go in there.
Head
Like,
for.
what? Let me see this
Yep.
temple. So before we go, I want to what you wanted to say something about the contest?
Yeah, I just wanted to, since we're talking about India, and I just wanted to go really quick over it. At the same time that this temple was put together, there was a group that apparently was formed there that is, again, there's not really much known about it at all. It's called the Nine Unknown Men. It was apparently formed by one of the oldest conquerors in India, and it's supposed to be comprised of the actual people that were instilled, the thousands of years ago. And for each, I just wanted to go over what their knowledge is supposed to be. So, what this group is supposed to be is it's supposed to be a world power group, and each individual in it, there's two theories. One is that they're eternal, and it's the same ones that were originally appointed. And the other theory is that they hand it down through generations to keep it secret within their family. No one knows who these men are. The society apparently does exist. It's been proven that there's some type of society, that this is not just some BS, that there's something to this. So these are the nine points of knowledge that these nine men or women were instilled with. So the first one is propaganda,
Huh.
physiology, microbiology, alchemy, communication, gravity, cosmology, the
Cosmology.
cosmos,
Yeah.
uh, the power of light, and sociology. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this, first of all, it's just such a great idea, to discuss, someone who's gathering knowledge and storing it, because we were always talking about what happened to this, what happened to the diagram for the pyramids, what happened to
Yeah.
this group of unknown nine men. It's an Indian, purely Indian group, and they are supposed to be instilled with this knowledge that they're keeping for us forever, and for mankind. What I thought was really, really interesting about it was they didn't say mathematics, they didn't say
Right.
biology.
Yeah.
These
Science.
topics are very, very
Specific.
interesting topics. They're specialized, and not only that, they also correlate with some other text. If you've read The Art of War, they talk about propaganda, communication.
Sure.
Um, I thought that the breakdown, if you look at it, really made for an interesting argument that the story is not just a fable, is that it's supposed to be a real group. And again, it comes from the same time as the Legend of the Temple, and it's supposed to be as well like the temple, which is still an active place of worship. This is supposed to be a continuing life, at this time, society, and it's very, very interesting. It's another.
Yeah.
So maybe
That's
you'd like to do a little bit
fascinating.
more research on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And very specific things. So they're not like, like you said, these basically those subjects are the key to humanity and success and power and wealth, all of it. So you could contain all of human wealth, power, and success into those few subjects. Like these are the things. Even sociology. Sociology is study of humans. So you're going to learn if you can master the mastery of over humans and learn how to manipulate and whatever, which is all. These are all parts of like Sun Tzu's Art of War and all these things, like you said.
Mhm.
They're if you have control over the human, you have control over everything. And so maybe that's what they're passing along with this coterie of I don't know if they're forever people or they're, like you said, it's generational, almost like you know, built not Bilderbergs. That's not a good example, but what they call the Masons and stuff like that.
Sure.
They
Right.
have a society. They pass things down generation, very secretive. Who knows? Maybe somewhere out there is somebody who knows something. I'm sure. There's people out there who know. We may never know though, but
Absolutely.
we'll
And
look into it.
send us your crazy theories. I want to, because once in a while, some of those actually pan out as being very interesting.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to send us any of your theories. I'd love to read them.
Yeah, drop it in a comment if you have an idea or you've heard a story or legend or I don't know, some myth or something. Drop it in the comments and check it out. Plug your book. I'm down to like 6% on my computer before it dies.
All right, let me
So
do this. I wanted to just read the riddle. I actually have it ready this time. So
okay,
this is the riddle. It ends on January 26th. So go to the link that you'll see at the end here and answer the riddle if you want to. We're doing the Crusade coin. If you didn't see it last time, the Crusade coin's the prize. So the riddle is: an image of a king through radiation doth sing, a graven mark, Clement declared a lark, a story of the risen sign, at first in France a gift so fine, but earlier than the first a stony shrine. So you can read it again there. I'll post it at the end of this. And if you figure it out, which I think if you do some searching and some thinking, I made this one a little bit easier. I think you'll have no problem picking it up.
I don't know, man. You're good at that, dude. You're really good at that. Like I'm not a riddle guy, but I probably take me forever to figure that out. But
I told you, just use Google. You get it.
I don't.
Everybody should give it a try.
My wife is super good at these type of things, so I'm gonna let her try and figure it out without Google. If we have to Google. But I'm looking forward to people
figure that out without Google. I wrote it.
Yeah, but you did a good job writing it. Like the delivery is very important because if you don't want it to be too easy, but you don't want it to be too hard. It's got to be just right. So
this one's definitely solvable. It's not killer. So you'll like this one. I know you will.
So you guys tell them where they can find your book, and you can find mine, To Be a King, on Amazon, To Be a King Volume 1 and 2, or go to my website, Gunner Detroit, at GunnerDetroit.com. I also own White Pine Publishing Consultants. Make sure to check that out if you're publishing a book or know somebody who is. have them contact us. We can help them publish it, format it, market it, everything. So, but tell them where they can find your book, Anthony.
Sure. I mean, on Amazon, you can get the hardcover, the audiobook, on Audible. And the regular website is dragonstormnovel.com. All the media, social media is at Dragonstorm Novel, so Facebook and Instagram. And the contest itself is at a different website, but it's abracadragon.com/contest. And again, it'll be posted at the end, so you can check it out there.
Yeah.
And we'll announce the
You got
winner.
nothing to lose. You know what I'm saying?
Lose.
It's a free contest. You don't have to be enrolled. You don't even have to be reading this book. Although, if you are reading this book, you probably have a better chance at solving the problem. We had almost 500 people, contestants or people submissions last month, and 110 people got it right. And we picked the winner, and they got a really cool prize. I like this prize you got this month even better. It's a Crusade coin, like a monetary coin from during the Crusades. Like, I don't know, it's a pretty rare thing, man. Like, they made their own money, the Catholic Church. And there's few coins left. He has one. He wants to give it to you. So check out the riddle, solve it, we randomly pick out of the winners, and you win. And if not, stay tuned till next week, and we'll have another show. There's so many cool things. There's so many ideas. We can go on forever. So every week we're just going to pick a topic like this and go on about it and have some fun. And hopefully you guys enjoy, and make sure to check out his book and my book too. That's all I'm saying. And subscribe and like. If you haven't like it right now. It takes 1 second. And you haven't subscribed, subscribe and come back. We're going to keep doing this.
Absolutely.
God bless.
Have a great week.
Have a great week, guys.